Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. This is the second in a series of videos for at least the beginning of the month of June, recording them all at the same time because I never know when I will or will not have energy. I'm actually running pretty low on energy right now, but I've already gotten started, so I just want to keep going with it. I've already recorded the one on the books I have finished since I last saw you about 3 weeks ago. So now I'm just going to talk about the books that I'm currently reading. Let me turn my page. So I will try to, whenever I talk about a book, try to put up a picture of the cover, probably over here, although it could be over there, as I speak about them. For one thing, it'll cover my messes on either side. There is method to my madness. It just doesn't look like it. But book covers will comfortably cover those things. So to jump right into it, I haven't been reading this one a lot, but that's mostly because I am distractible. This book has been a very good one to return to, though. It's comfortable. It's easy to get right back into. You might hear some noise downstairs. My dad has a home gym downstairs, and he might start singing loudly to whatever music he has in his ear, or you might hear like grunting or something, because I'm right above his home gym. So I apologize in advance. He is just enjoying himself. But anyhow, so the book is Washington a Life by Ron Chernow. He's the same man who wrote the Alexander Hamilton book, which the musical Alexander Hamilton was inspired by. Lin-Manuel Miranda. There we go. Sorry, brain fog. Apparently, Lin-Manuel Miranda had read the Alexander Hamilton book written by Chernow and then got inspired to do the musical Hamilton. I don't own the Alexander Hamilton book. I probably will eventually read that because I'm really enjoying Ron Chernow's Washington a Life. Now, Ron Chernow, he's really good at giving sources. He's really good at painting a very full picture of Washington and also some of the other characters involved in his story. Because of that, I think I showed this a while back, he made me want to know more about Benedict Arnold, and I picked up a different book, different author, but a book on Benedict Arnold, which I will read because Chernow made me interested. And I did come away with a poor impression of a couple of the people that I didn't expect to come with quite that impression. Now, I gotta admit, I like John Adams. He's a bit of a curmudgeon, but I respect him. The one book I read on John Adams to deal with the Boston Massacre was a very good book, and I really got a respect for him from that book. Not so much Samuel Adams, but John Adams, yes. This book, Washington Life, has given me a good respect and interest in Lafayette. And there's a book that I want to read and that I own that talks about the almost father-son relationship between Washington and Lafayette. And that is on my to-read after I finish Washington a Life. But this is almost an 900-page book, and I'm only like 40% through, so it's going to be a while. This is a long-term read. But I've come away with a poor opinion of Hamilton. Hamilton is kind of prima donna. Once he married up into the Schuler family, it seemed like he felt like he didn't need to deign to curry favor with Washington anymore, so he kind of did his prima donna thing and stomped out. And yeah, one thing that you notice with Washington, even if he's boiling on the inside, he always seems to take the high road. He doesn't try to diminish people that he's having issues with. he doesn't try to diminish them in the eyes of other people. And so he often comes off looking a lot better than the people he's dealing with. So I loved seeing from Washington's writing, and even from how his aides remark as time goes on in the war, how he can get a little bit brittle in his temper, which, I mean, gosh, why wouldn't you? You're dealing with a really rough war situation. A lot of issues with not having enough food, not having enough clothing, and just not the money to do what they need to do. Not enough arms. So naturally, Washington, I would imagine, would be a bit snippy. But you see that, and you also see some of this in his writing, some things that he would never present as a public face, he would talk about in his writings the people that he trusted. So I like getting this fuller view of Washington. So if you want a nice full 900-page view of George Washington, I recommend Ron Chernow's book, More Pepperminty. Also, okay, this one, all right, might be a bit controversial about this because I think a lot of people like this book. Cover's going to go either direction. I really had high hopes about this book, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to finish it. It's called The Ice Pick Surgeon: Murder, Fraud, Sabotage, Piracy, and Other Dastardly Deeds Perpetuated in the Name of Science. And this is by Sam Kean. The title completely pulled me in. It's exactly the kind of thing I want to read. But I think I talked about in my previous video about how I like to read different books by different historians on the same topic so I can get different points of view or different representations of the same events so I can form my own opinion. And I prefer such things to be historical facts to be reported in such a way that is professional. Yes, enjoyable, but in a way that just the facts, ma'am. Sam Kean does not do this. He, within the first chapter, he's already offering an opinion. He's describing whether or not this one person is woke, which really took me actually out of the time period. I don't really need in my historical view of science to be kind of pulled to rather common things that are being used in politics today. I didn't really care whether or not he considered this person woke or not. This was not a term that was used to describe people at that time. So I found that really distracting. But I decided, okay, well, maybe it's just the one time. Move on. So the next person. And when an author in a history book feels the need to tell me who I should or should not feel for, I'm done. Doesn't matter whether or not they're right. I don't need a historian or someone who is taking the part of a historian, who is acting the part of a historian, telling me how to think. I can make my own opinions. I don't need him to spoon feed me. So that turned me off. I am perfectly capable of making my own opinions. And I don't appreciate an author acting like I'm an idiot. That might not be the way he intended it. But I know he's not a professional historian. I guess he's not a professional historian. I think he's a podcaster. And it shows. I know I'm a bit snobby about books. I know I have certain opinions, very strong opinions, about how books should or should not be written. But I feel like if you are writing a historical book and you're treating it as a true historical book, you need to be able to report your facts with a certain level of not distance, but you have to try to diminish your bias as much as possible. When I'm reading Washington A Life by Ron Chernow, I don't know what Ron Chernow thinks about Washington directly. I can maybe gather by, if I'm really paying attention to the reading, by different clues he might leave in the way he writes, but he's not out there telling me that, Washington, I think you should totally see that he's a stand-up guy, and you should totally empathize with him. Or you shouldn't empathize with the British. If I was told that by him in that book, I'd probably get a bit annoyed. Because that's not a professional level of writing. And that's what I feel about the Ice Pick Surgeon. And that's 2 chapters in. I've run into 2 things that really pulled me out of the reading. So I'm not sure I'll be able to finish this, which is very disappointing to me because I had high hopes for this book. Because it's really something that I enjoy reading. And maybe I'm weird. Maybe it's not a big deal, but what do you think? Do you find that you prefer to have someone telling you what to think in a history book, or does it not bother you at all, or is it something that bothers you as well? I don't know, but like I said, I like to make my own opinion and read a variety of books, rather than taking one person and accept him as gospel. But that's me and the Ice Pick Surgeon. We're going to move on because I'm pretty sure I managed to offend somebody. But anyway, okay, so the next one, and I need to continue reading this one because it's going to be good. I just haven't been in the brain space to read this simply because I know it's going to be an emotional book. And I haven't been feeling well, so I didn't want to set off my symptoms more by getting emotional. The book is called I Wasn't Strong Like This When I Started Out, True Stories of Becoming a Nurse. And I think it's compilations of different people's stories, which that promises to be it promises to be a tearjerker. It promises to be just full of so much heart. And I expect to recognize either myself or people that I knew as a new nurse in these people that I'll be reading about. I not only expect to see myself in them, I also anticipate seeing maybe situations that I remember, see maybe patients that are similar to ones that I remember during that time you start out. And when you start out, you're not, every day is a struggle. You feel like you know nothing, that nursing school prepared you for absolutely nothing. And you learn, like, it's trial by fire. So, yes, I'm looking forward to continuing this. It might be a while. I've been having a lot of energy issues and a lot of other issues, so that's going to be a while. What's not going to be a while, because apparently, let me find the book. This is Migraine Awareness Month, which I didn't know, which I think I'm also working on migraine. I can feel it back here, because my neck starts tightening first. But I already had this book on audiobook, but I really couldn't get a whole lot out of it just by listening to it. So I went ahead, and the Kindle was way too expensive, so I picked up the physical book. This is Migraine by Oliver Sacks. The cover is a bit funky. He had cooler covers that I liked better, but this is one I was able to get. I've already been highlighting this. I'm hoping to understand my migraines a lot better with this because, well, first of all, I don't think doctors even fully understand the way migraines work now, even. But this will help solidify things a little bit. Oliver Sacks is very well known for writing neurology books, but he's also well known for his patient-centric stories in his neurology books. I think Awakenings is one. I have to read that one. I think I was told there's also a movie with Awakenings, for Awakenings. But the one I read was The Man Who Thought His Wife Was a Hat. That was the first one I read, and that was absolutely fantastic. It was a really good set of patient case studies where you followed these patients along and you learned about them, and also you learned about their medical condition, their neurological condition. So it was very fascinating. This is set up very differently. This is very much of a what is migraines kind of book. So I'm interested in seeing how that goes. I actually have my highlighter sitting here for when I plan on picking up and reading it again, which I'm hoping will be after I record. Not very far along. It is well, that's leading into bibliography, but if I don't include the bibliography, if I just include, are we going to count appendices? Let's count appendices. So if I include the appendices, which I may or may not read depending on how I feel, it's a 305-page book, and I'm on page 16. So I have a while, but I'm not rushing this. I'm trying to really absorb this book, which I wasn't able to do, like I said, on audiobook. Unlike The Man Who Thought His Wife Was a Hat, that one was very good as an audiobook. Okay, the next one. Let me take another drink. I've owned this book for a while. I forgot about it, and then I remembered that I had it downstairs. I borrowed it as an audiobook from the library, and then I was like, you know what? I own this book. Let me go and grab the physical form. What is cool is if I decide I want to listen to it, I can listen to it for a while, and then go back to the physical book. So, although I'm actually really making pretty good progress, this is an Allison Weir book. Allison Weir is the one who started me on reading history books. I think the first book I read by her was it was about the children of Henry VIII, I want to say. And that might have been the title or something similar to that. And another very early one I read was on The Princes in the Tower. So I haven't read one of her books for a while as I've branched out into other authors. I haven't read one of her books in... Wait a second. I was going to say I haven't read one of her books in quite a while, but I think that's a lie, because I think I read two of her books fairly recently. One was... They're about queens of the conquest, and there were different queens of England. It was like I think it was a two-set series, maybe a three-set series. I read it last year. I might have finished one of them this year, but that was a compilation one. This one has been in my collection for a while. I don't think I've ever read it. For a while, I was just picking up her books whenever I went to a bookstore. Yes, when people actually went to bookstores and picked up books, instead of mostly going to Amazon. I mean, I know people go to bookstores, but I don't leave the house, so that's not what I do anymore. So, yes, Mistress of the Monarchy. This is about Catherine Swynford? I'm not sure how that's pronounced. I'm going to say Swynford. Life of Catherine Swynford, Duchess of Lancaster. So this is the mistress and then wife of John of Gaunt, and I think he's the Red Prince, whereas the Black Prince was his brother. And I actually I don't think I own the physical form, but I own the Kindle form of the book on John of Gaunt, not by Allison Weir, but it's called, I think it's just called The Red Prince. Might have been John Guy who wrote it, or Morris. Morris might have written it. Anyhow, I'm really enjoying this. I remember now why Allison Weir got me reading history, because she's very easy to read. I forgot also that I probably need to look at her footnotes more, because she actually has some details in her footnotes sometimes. I mean, you can get by without reading her footnotes, or, notes and references. So I've been trying to remember to read them every once in a while, but it's not a big deal if I don't. I also forgot that she has pretty pictures in the I have a lot of, there we go, glare. Has a section of just like pretty pictures, which is cool. She generally takes all the pictures that she's going to be talking about throughout the book and puts them, not quite midway, but close to midway in her text. Yeah, because if you take away the notes, it's about midway in the text that her pictures are. So I'm at page 110, and the chapter is Mistress of the Duke. So things are moving along. You have things about Chaucer in here. You have some pretty interesting stuff in here. So I'm enjoying this so far. I think I also ended up snagging a book on Philippa of Hainaut. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. The queen during the period of time that Catherine Swineford had come over to England, because she was not English originally. She was from Hainaut or Hainautian, or however they say that. So, yes, that has been a fun read. It's a nice, relaxing read. Then the other one, I'm going to be throwing up the cover again. This is something I borrowed from, I think this was borrowed from Libby. It's called Blue Dreams, The Science and the Story of the Drugs That Changed Our Minds by Lauren Slater. And from what I gather, she is both a practitioner, I think, of psychology, and she is a patient. It sounds like she might have bipolar, but she tends to her depressive end, it sounds like, even though she also has manic periods. And she tells the story not only from a personal point of view, but she runs through each of the psychiatric meds as they came along historically and what brought them to the forefront. Honestly, it's in some ways it's similar to Heart Healers insofar as you see the kind of things that people could get away with, some of the mavericky actions when there weren't things like FDA oversight, where people just be like, yeah, sure, let's go test that on myself. I didn't die. Great, let's test this on a patient now. Some pretty cool stories in there. It sounds, when you look at it, like it might be maybe a dry book. I don't find it dry, but I also tend to read a lot of history, particularly medical history, with a smattering of like true crime and things like that, which really makes me seem kind of creepy, to be quite honest with you, but I find it really enjoyable. Oh yeah, and let's throw in some of my Golden Age murder mysteries as well to complete my aura of creepiness. Oh dear. Turn down all my lights in my back cave, and then we will be complete in our vision of creepiness. But anyhow, those are the things that I'm reading right now. Most of them I'm going to continue reading. If I do, in fact, stop reading The Ice Pick Surgeon, I'm not going to pick up another book right away, even though that's going to be the immediate temptation. I might pick up the other, or I might start reading the other Diane Freeman book, The Guide to Gossip and Murder, Lady's Guide to Gossip and Murder. So I have one fiction book in there. But that would be the only one I pick up right away. I have to finish a couple more books before I can let myself read another medical E-type book, even though I have one I want to read. But yes, those are the ones I'm reading so far. When I come back with my next video, I'll go over the new books that I have and what I next intend to read. So are these books that you think that you would enjoy reading? And what do you think about a book like The Ice Pick Surgeon that is more free with the author's opinions, where there's more author insertion, but not in the way that where the author's not a part of the story necessarily in the way that Heart Healers is. I'm interested in seeing what you think. And maybe, I don't know, interested in seeing what you think. For whatever reason, the author in Heart Healers, the few times where he does it, maybe because he is a professional, he's giving his professional opinion, plus he personally saw a lot of the steps along the way in the changes of cardiac history. So he was personally involved, he knew a lot of people personally involved, or he was personally affected and his patients were personally affected by the things spoken about. So if he wants to put in his 2 cents, I'm a lot more inclined to listen to him. Whereas, for whatever reason, Sam Keen really bothers me by his author insertion and his deciding to tell me how to think. But what do you think? Sound out in the comments. And I will see y'all next time, hopefully. God bless. Bye.